Hello, my young detectives. Today we are going to be talking about Tatiane Spitzner. I really want to share her story because I want to raise awareness through it. This case took place in Brazil, the land of coffee, samba and football, but as we all know, everything has a bad side. Brazil has the 7th highest crime rate in the world, with exceptionally high rates of violent crimes. While murder rates fall in Brazil, femicide remains on the rise. Femicide is described as any crime that involves domestic violence, contempt, or discrimination against women, which results in their death. According to the World Health Organization, 1 of 3 women worldwide have been subjected to violence by their partner in their lifetime. Fortunately, most women manage to recover from the abuse, but Tatiane Spitzner was not so lucky. Tatiana was a lawyer who lived in Guarapuava. She was 29 years old. Tatiana worked with her father, George Spitzner, who is also a lawyer. Louis Philip Manveiler, 32-year-old university biology lecturer. He did his undergraduate and master's degrees at a federal university and a doctorate at a German university. He carried out research of public relevance and was highly respected in his field. Louis was a big fan of a healthy lifestyle and different physical activities. Tatiana and Louis Philip got married in 2013 and lived in Germany for 3 years, where he was taking a graduate course. According to friends of the lawyer, anything became a reason for an argument. Despite never talking about the physical aggressions, Tatiana also used to appear with purple bruises on her arms. But she always didn't talk. In March 2 years ago, the lawyer sent messages to a friend saying that Louis Philip was gross and stupid and that he had mortal hatred of her. In the conversation, she also revealed that her husband has completely changed after starting to take hormonal anabolic steroids. Tatiana told her friend that she just lacked the courage to face the divorce. When she threatened to separate, Louis Philip began to cry and say that he loved her, and that would change, of course. Typical. Tatiana and Louis Philip spent their July holidays with their parents and sister. They came back from the trip on Saturday, the day before the tragedy. So it was supposed to be a fun night out for a couple and some of their friends. It was Louis' birthday when tragedy struck. The entire argument started when Tatiana was a couple of minutes late coming home. Her husband was waiting for her, all dressed up because they were going to a local restaurant. Tatiana went to a nail appointment wanting to look her best for her husband, and it took longer than expected. When she came, he started the argument saying that she was late and they had to be there already. Publicly, Louis was regarded as a cultured and educated man, but it would seem that he was somewhat distant, unlike Tatiana. Her friends would say that she was not only beautiful, but she was a compassionate person. She loved her family and was very outgoing and sociable. The university professor was the total opposite. No one knew much about his life. It's only known that he had a brother and a sister. His father died and his mother was battling cancer. According to businessman Marcelo Virtuoso, owner of the fitness gym, the gym that Louis went, he would say that Louis would come in, he'd work out and then he'd leave. He didn't chat at all with anybody. Also, he would say that Louis was truly passionate about physical growth. From the beginning of the year until now, he's gotten really big. The police even found a large stash of anabolic steroids in the couple's apartment. Case reports and small studies indicate that anabolic steroids increase irritability and aggression, although findings may be confounded by personality traits that are overrepresented in steroid users and use of other drugs. People who misuse anabolic steroids report more anger than non-users, as well as more fights, verbal aggression and violence toward their significant others, sometimes called roid rage. So, the couple eventually arrived at the restaurant where their friends were waiting. They both drank that night and got a little bit tipsy. According to the family's defender, Tatiana saw a message from another woman on her husband's cell phone and asked who that was. From then on, they started quarreling, the lawyer explained. Luana, Tatiana's sister, who was at the party, reported that her sister sat down and said that they really got divorced. Louis said in his defense that when they got in the restaurant, he posted a story on his Instagram telling his followers that it was his birthday. Then we received several messages from his friends, including women. Tatiana's closest friend, Juliana Santos, said that Louis was the jealous one, resorting even to physical violence. The first time Tatiana complained about Louis, she said that his jealousy bothered her. She added that his jealousy started to intensify her. Juliana said that Louis was treating Tatiana very badly, demeaning her in front of the others, doing everything to contradict her, and even said that he got to the point of hating her. So, let's dive deeper into the case. At around 2 a.m., the couple returned home. In the car, still on the street, images from security cameras recorded the moment when Louis Philippe hit Tatiana, punching and slapping her in the face. In the parking, the attacks continued. According to the police and the analysis of the security videos, Louis Philippe, who has a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, even gave Tatiana the metaleo blow, who remained motionless in the parking lot for about 2 minutes. He kicked her and lifted her off the ground. Tatiana, upon regaining her senses, tried to flee. Inside the elevator, Tatiana desperately pressed a button, trying to escape the pursuit, but Louis caught up to her, held tightly, and prevented her escape. Leaving the elevator is the last moment the lawyer appears live on the building's security cameras. 15 minutes had passed from her last registration in the elevator to the moment she fell. To the police, neighbors said they heard the couple arguing and Tatiana asking for help several times. At 2:57 a.m., Tatiana fell from the balcony. Louis Philippe went down to the sidewalk and took the lawyer's body back to the apartment. Then he appeared in a different shirt, wiping the blood of the elevator. At 3:08 a.m., police appeared at the entrance of the building, but Louis Philippe had already fled with the car. Residents in the building who called police after hearing a woman screaming for help reported seeing a man picking up the victim's body from the pavement. One witness recounted hearing him shout, "My love, wake up." The murderer drove a long distance of 300 kilometers from his apartment complex. According to the police, he would be heading towards Paraguay. The indications are that Louis forced an escape, set up a fake accident, and put the blame on the emotional, as he had just seen his wife commit suicide. Louis Philippe was arrested after suffering a traffic accident during the possible escape. In a statement to the police, he denied having assaulted his wife and also stated that he loved her. According to Louis Philippe, she had thrown herself from the balcony, but according to the expertise carried out by the Criminalistic Institute, there was no evidence of any chemical reaction that took place in Tatiana's body prior to her falling to her death. No traces of adrenaline or cortisol were present, which would indicate fear or awareness of plummeting to the ground. Experts say that the young woman was already dead when she hit the pavement. She also had high alcohol content in her blood, which was normal, taking into consideration that they had come home from the birthday celebration. The lawyer also suffered multiple fractures to the rest of her body, consistent with a 40-foot drop into concrete pavement. Upon further investigation, the imprint of a pair of hands were discovered on her throat. Her hyoid bone, located in the front of her neck, was fractured. This injury is commonly associated with strangulation, further strengthening the theory which said Tatiana was already dead prior to falling on the pavement. The Public Ministry of Paraná denounced Louis Philippe Manveiler for the crime of homicide, with 4 qualifiers: cruel, making it difficult to defend the victim, clumsy motive, and femicide. In addition, he was also charged with procedural fraud, altering the crime scene and keeping the victim in false imprisonment. Criminal prosecutor Dunia Rampazzo said, Our investigation proves that the victim was killed inside the apartment by asphyxiation, and her body was thrown over the balcony of the apartment. We believe the accused then took the elevator to the ground floor and collected Tatiana's body, taking it back up to the apartment in the elevator. We suspect that before she was killed, Louis subjected his wife to a prolonged period of violent physical aggression. That was not a suicide, but femicide. The aggressor then attempted to escape by car. Tatiana's death caused national outrage and provoked a countrywide debate on domestic abuse and the vulnerability of women in a country where 1,133 were victims of femicide in 2017. According to the Brazilian Forum on Public Security, last year, an average of 530 women reported suffering domestic violence per day. Forensic experts explained the criminal investigation took longer than the 30 days expected because it is a complicated case. 3 simulations examining the dynamics of the lawyer's fall were carried out from the 4th floor flat, where the couple lived. The operation used a doll of the same weight and height of the victim, which was dropped from different angles, testing various possibilities of how the fall occurred. A distressing record of the scenes leading up to the lawyer's death gives a graphic insight into the domestic abuse she suffered. Close friends of the victim claim she revealed in a series of texts sent many months prior to her death that she was afraid of her husband, who she accused of mistreating her, and she wanted to divorce. However, the defense lawyer for the husband argued the couple had a happy relationship. Tatiana's father said, "I'm sorry. I can't hug and kiss my daughter anymore. It kills me every day, you know," he says. "Now I'm going to my office and there's not my little girl in there anymore," he said excitedly. George said that his daughter came to his last month complaining about the wedding. "Dad, I said I would divorce him and he will not accept it. He will not accept it," she said. "Father, I'm talking. I think I can do it, you know? I'm talking about I'll try even more," he says. Manveiler has been charged with murder, including the qualifiers under Brazilian law of femicide, crudely, clumsy motive, and hindering the victim's defense to further explain what happened, along with incarceration of the victim and procedural fraud. The brother of the suspect, Andres Santos Manveiler, said that Luis Philip is honest and has never been involved in a fight. Tatiana was very jealous of him for harassment at school, which he taught. In addition to the reports of violence on the day of the death, as shown in the videos, prosecutors indicate that Manveiler would have committed all kinds of violence against his wife. Luis Philip Manveiler was sentenced to 30 years in prison for murder, a crime that many would classify as femicide. In addition to the initial sentence received after ending his wife's life, Luis Philip was also convicted of procedural fraud, which increased his sentence by 1 year, 9 months, and 18 days. He has been detained in the industrial penitentiary of Guarapuava. On Instagram, Spitzner's sister, Luna Spitzner, created a page called Todos por Tatiana, or Everyone for Tatiana, which has been followed by a lot of people. On it, she warns, "Violence leaves marks. Not seeing them leaves femicides." 47,000 women and girls worldwide were killed by their intimate partners or other family members in 2020. This means that on average a woman or a girl is killed by someone in her own family every 11 minutes. Where trends can be calculated, they show that the magnitude of such gender-related killings remains largely unchanged, however, with only marginal increases and decreases over the past decade. Many women suffer violence in silence and do not report it to the police because of family pressure, religious beliefs, fear, or financial dependence on the abuser. How can I stop domestic violence? What can I do? The best answer to the question of how to stop domestic violence, and the only way to permanently do so, is to end the cycles of control and abuse in relationships. This involves teaching children to respect their romantic partners by demonstrating respectful, healthy relationships with other spouses and partners. We can also take more concrete steps in our daily lives to help achieve the goal, including calling the police if you see or hear evidence of domestic violence, Speaking out publicly against domestic violence. Referring your neighbor, coworker, friend, or family member to a domestic violence outreach organization if you suspect they are being abused. Considering reaching out to your neighbor, coworker, friend, or family member that you believe is being abusive by talking to them about your concerns. Educating others on domestic violence by inviting a speaker from your local domestic violence organization to present on your religious or professional organization, civic or volunteer group, workplace or school. Encouraging your neighborhood watch or block association to watch for domestic violence as well as burglaries and other crimes. Donating to domestic violence counseling programs and shelters. Being especially vigilant about domestic violence during the stressful holiday season. Domestic violence is a topical challenge all over the world. Let's hope that the numerous successful examples of stopping it will be an encouragement to start fighting domestic violence in this world and to find ways for a peaceful coexistence of the sexes. If you are interested in true crime like I am, I hope that you would consider hitting that subscribe button, but either way, thanks for being here. Stay safe.